everyone. Welcome back to Atlanta and Company. I'm Christine Pullara. It's so great to be with you today. Well, are you able to spot the signs of an emotionally abusive relationship? It's something we should all be on the lookout for, and thanks to author Amy Baer's new book, From Charm to Harm, the guide to spotting, naming, and stopping emotional abuse in intimate relationships, those signs will become pretty obvious. And we're thrilled to have her back to tell us more about this book and, more importantly, how to stop emotional abuse before it even starts. So welcome back, first and foremost.
Thank you for having me back.
I remember last time we talked, I could have talked to you for an hour. So we're going to touch upon the book, of course, but get into the signs because we really want to help anyone out there who might be suffering from emotional abuse. So how do you recognize when someone is being abusive? What are the signs?
Yes. Well, let's look at two different times in a relationship. Early on, you have to watch for red flags, and they can be very subtle. So watch how your new boyfriend or new girlfriend talks about their former girlfriend or boyfriend. If they are critical, blaming, disrespectful, they're probably going to be talking to you about you like that, not too far in the future. The other thing is if you see signs of possessiveness, jealousy, if they try to intimidate you with anger, substance abuse, if they pressure you into something you're not ready for, such as living together, then those are all signs of emotional abuse. Later on in the relationship, when you're in the relationship, if you finish having a so-called meaningful conversation, but you're feeling empty and confused and bad about yourself, and that happens a lot, then chances are you could be in an emotionally abusive relationship.
Right, you have to trust your gut, I think, in those situations.
Yes.
And really listen, because your intuition is telling you something. As you said, if after these conversations, you're still left going, something's not right.
Yes.
Okay, and let's talk about when normal interaction, because we all fight, am I right? People have disagreements. Been married 8 years. We have some, some times where we're not in agreement. But when does that cross the line to abuse?
As you said, Christine, every couple has disagreements. We fight, we get angry, we say things and do things that we don't mean. What crosses the line here is if it happens on a regular basis, if there's a pattern of that and issues don't get resolved. And so that's really the difference between being in a healthy relationship where you can have a disagreement but then resolve it. Right. Or if all these issues are just left unresolved, that's a really good general sign that you may be in an abusive relationship.
And in all of your research, how much did you find, how common is this?
Emotionally abusive relationships are very common. In fact, I think there's a silent epidemic of it. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence uncovered an epidemic of physical violence, and it's 1 in 3 women will be physically abused by their boyfriends. Now, where there's physical violence, there's always emotional abuse, but not necessarily the opposite. So we can deduce from that there's probably even a larger incidence of emotional abuse. And this is a very destructive force because it's invisible. You get involved with someone who walks and talks like a normal person. They're nice, they're present, they're pleasant, they're even charming, but underneath they have a deep-seated need to control you. And that comes from something that happened to them in childhood and in their development. So you have to get to know someone before you get involved with them.
Absolutely. And hearing all these signs, I can think of one relationship I was in where you feel like the person is always just chipping away at you emotionally, your self-esteem, and it's truly just a little something that progresses over time, and the next thing you know, you realize, wow, this isn't a healthy relationship.
You know what that's like? It's really like 1,000 small cuts.
Yes.
It is chipping away at your self-esteem because in order to, for more effective control over someone, you want to break them down.
Right.
So it's almost like putting arsenic in your coffee every morning. It happens very gradually, and you don't see it coming.
Right.
I know people that have been in relationships for years, and they didn't realize that they were in an emotionally abusive relationship. But, this is a heavy subject. What I really want to say is there's hope and there's help out there. You don't have to be in a miserable relationship. There's hope for you and there's hope for your partner.
And your message is so important. Again, that's why we said, let's bring her back, because we had a lot of people say, thank you for talking about this, because you, as you said, it's suffering in silence, but it doesn't have to be. Have you seen progress since you started writing the book or since the book has been out?
Well, I've been so delighted, but I've been traveling around the country because there really is a lot of media interest in this. People want to talk about this. It's a dark subject, but the only way we're going to help diminish this emotional abuse and improve relationships is to talk about it. People need to know what to do, and that's what I have in my book. It's a comprehensive guide. It tells you who abuses, why they're abusive, who is vulnerable to it, what to do about it. It has the specific tactics of control and power, and then also the effects of that control and power. So it spells it out.
And let's talk about, is it more men to women? Are you seeing women doing it to men as well?
I'm glad you brought that up, because emotional abuse can happen between any two people. It can be parent, child, friends, siblings, co-workers. In intimate relationships, research shows that it's usually in heterosexual relationships, it's usually the man who's controlling or abusive to the woman. But certainly this happens in same-sex relationships and every other type of relationship.
Absolutely. And talk about, you know, a lot of people want to know, how do I get the help I need? If they're watching right now, maybe they're thinking, oh gosh, this is me. What's that first step that you recommend?
The first step is to know what you're up against. This is a very destructive force. It destroys lives and families. It's passed down to your children because you're role models for your children.
Right.
So the first thing is to read From Charm to Harm. That's why I wrote the book, because it has the information you need. And then the other thing is get help. Go to a professional, a therapist. I have a private practice in which I specialize in treating emotionally abusive people who've been in emotionally abusive relationships. It's a specialty. You have to go to someone who really understands the dynamics of what happens, because the person who's abusive can be so charming to other people and then mistreat you. So know what you're up against, read everything you can, get support, draw support from your friends, your community, and lay down some consequences for your controlling spouse.
Amy, thank you so much. Again, I wish we had so much more time, but luckily for you, you can meet Amy Baer Thursday, August 14th. Mark your calendars at Charis Books.
Charis Books,
Books on Euclid Avenue, and that's in Atlanta, from 7:30 to 9. And her book, Charm to Harm, is available online and in bookstores right now. Stick around.